The Accra sun blazed mercilessly over the glass facade of the premium mall, turning the polished entrance into a mirror of gold. Inside the parking lot, luxury cars gleamed like jewels. Mercedes, Range Rovers, and sleek BMWs belonging to Ghana's elite who frequented this shopping paradise. Kwame Mensah stepped out of his pristine white Bentley, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the hot pavement. At 38, he was Ghana's youngest billionaire, the CEO of Mensah Tech Industries, a company that had revolutionized telecommunications across West Africa. His tailored navy blue kaftan, embroidered with intricate gold threading, caught the light as he moved. The fabric was imported silk from Dubai, custom-made to fit his broad shoulders perfectly. Around his neck hung a heavy gold chain, and on his wrist, a Patek Philippe watch worth more than most people's annual salary gleamed in the sunlight. His driver, Kofi, a middle-aged man in a crisp black suit and matching cap, hurried to keep pace. "Sir, should I wait here or circle the lot?" "Wait here," Kwame said curtly, already typing on his phone. Board meetings, investment deals, and international calls consumed his every waking moment. He had no time for pleasantries, no patience for delays. As he approached the mall entrance, security guards in burgundy uniforms straightened, nodding respectfully. "Good afternoon, Mr. Mensah." He barely acknowledged them. His mind was already planning his next business move, calculating profits, strategizing acquisitions. Then he heard it, a faint, trembling voice. "Sir, please, sir." Kwame's jaw tightened. Not again. These beggars were everywhere in Accra now, despite the government's efforts to clear the streets. He quickened his pace toward the gleaming glass doors. "Sir, just small. I beg you." The voice grew more desperate. Kwame spun around, irritation flashing in his eyes. An elderly woman stood at the base of the entrance stairs, one gnarled hand gripping the railing, the other reaching toward him. She wore a faded blue dress, once beautiful but now torn and stained with dirt. The fabric, though tattered, showed traces of quality. It had been an expensive Ankara print years ago. Her gray hair, matted and wild, fell around a face carved with deep wrinkles. But her eyes, those eyes were sharp, alert, filled with a desperate hope that made Kwame's stomach twist uncomfortably. "Madam, I told you to leave my car alone in the parking lot," Kwame said, his voice cold. "Did you follow me here?" "Please, my son," she whispered, using the respectful term. "I haven't eaten in 3 days. Just bread. Anything. I'm not your son," Kwame snapped. Security. 2 guards approached but hesitated. Something about the scene made them uncomfortable. The woman wasn't aggressive or threatening. She simply stood there, her hands still extended, trembling not just from hunger, but from emotion Kwame couldn't quite place. "Please," she said again, her voice breaking. "Just look at me. Please." Kwame's anger surged. He had dealt with persistent beggars before, but this woman had followed him from his car, through the parking lot, past the security checkpoints, and now to the very entrance of the mall. His patience snapped like a dry twig. "I said leave." He raised his right hand high, palm open, ready to strike. The crowd that had been filtering in and out of the mall stopped. Phones came up. Eyes widened. Time seemed to slow. Then, cutting through the thick, hot air like a blade, a voice rang out, clear, firm, and commanding. "Don't slap her. She's your missing mother." Everything froze. Kwame's hand hung suspended in the air, his palm inches from the old woman's face. His heart hammered against his ribs. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head toward the voice. At the edge of the stairs stood a young woman, perhaps 25, her appearance a stark contrast to the wealth surrounding them. She wore a faded gray dress that might have been white once, its hem heavy with red dust from the streets. Her hair was uncombed, wild curls falling around her face like a dark halo. Her feet were bare, her toes stained with the same dust that colored her dress. She was thin, dangerously so, her collarbones sharp beneath her skin, her arms like reeds. But her eyes, God, her eyes blazed with an intensity that stopped Kwame's breath. They were bright and clear, burning with a truth she seemed to carry in her very bones. "What did you say?" Kwame's voice came out as a whisper, though he'd meant to shout. The young woman stepped forward, barefoot on the hot concrete, seemingly immune to the pain. Her right hand was raised toward Kwame, palm out, as if to physically stop him. Her left hand clutched something against her chest, a small cloth bundle. I said, "Don't slap her. She's your missing mother." The words landed like stones in still water, sending ripples through the gathered crowd. Murmurs erupted. Phones shifted angles, capturing every moment. Kwame's hand dropped slowly to his side. "My what?" "Your mother," the young woman repeated, her voice softer now, but no less certain. "Don't touch her." The old woman gasped, her legs buckling slightly. She gripped the railing tighter, her eyes darting between Kwame and the young stranger. For several heartbeats, the world stood perfectly still. The traffic noise faded. The crowd's whispers became a distant hum. Even the sun seemed to pause in its journey across the sky. The only movement was the gentle flutter of the old woman's torn dress in the hot breeze. Kwame found his voice, though it shook. "Who are you? And how dare you?" "My name is Amara," the young woman interrupted. She moved closer, her bare feet leaving faint prints on the dusty stairs. "I don't have much. I have nothing, actually. But I have one gift," I read faces. "I see what others miss." "You're insane," Kwame said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I saw you in the parking lot." Amara continued undeterred. "I saw her waiting here, and I knew. The same story lives on both your faces." "What story?" Kwame demanded, but his voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. His chest felt tight, as if someone had wrapped a band around his ribs and was slowly pulling it tighter. "Pain," Amara said simply. "Loss. The same way your eyes narrow when you're trying not to remember something. The same way her mouth trembles before she speaks. The same way you both stand, as if you're carrying something too heavy to name." The crowd pressed closer, hanging on every word. Security guards had abandoned all pretense of moving anyone along. Even a mall manager stood in the doorway, transfixed. Amara turned to the old woman. "Mama, may I see your right wrist?" The old woman stared at her, confusion and hope warring in her weathered face. Slowly, as if in a dream, she extended her right arm. Amara's fingers were gentle as she pushed up the frayed sleeve. The fabric was stubborn, stiff with dirt and age, but finally it yielded. There, just above the prominent veins on the inside of her wrist, was a small birthmark. Dark brown, shaped distinctly like a comma or a tiny apostrophe. It stood out against her skin, unmistakable. Amara looked up at Kwame, her eyes blazing again. "Sir, show yours." The words hung in the air like smoke. Kwame felt every eye on him. His throat constricted. His hands, usually so steady when signing million-dollar deals, trembled. "This is ridiculous," he said, but even as he spoke, his left hand moved to his right wrist. "Show them," Amara said softly. "If I'm wrong, you can call security and have me arrested. But if I'm right..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Kwame's fingers found the button on his right cuff. He fumbled with it once, twice. Then it came undone. The crowd seemed to lean in as one entity, holding its collective breath. He pushed up his sleeve, revealing his designer watch first, then the smooth skin of his forearm. And there, just above the veins, sat an identical mark. A comma-shaped birthmark in the exact same place. The gasp that rose from the crowd was not loud. It was soft, almost reverent, like the sound of a door opening in a sacred place. Kwame stared at his wrist, then at the old woman's wrist, then back at his own. His vision blurred. The world tilted slightly on its axis. "I've had this since birth," he heard himself say, his voice sounding far away. "My mother, she had one too, in the same place. She went missing 17 years ago. We searched everywhere. Police, private detectives, radio announcements, newspaper ads. Everyone said that she must be..." He couldn't finish. The word dead stuck in his throat like a stone. The old woman's lips moved soundlessly. Tears began to roll down her weathered cheeks, cutting clean paths through the dust on her face. Kwame's legs gave way. He didn't choose to kneel. His body simply folded, bringing him down to the hot concrete at the woman's feet. His knees hit the ground with a dull thud. His hand went to his chest, pressing against his heart, as if to keep it from breaking through his ribs. Mama. The word came out broken, half question, half prayer. Mama, where have you been? The old woman reached for his face with both hands, her fingers trembling violently. She touched his cheeks, his forehead, his jaw, as if trying to convince herself he was real. Her lips quivered, trying to form words that wouldn't come. Finally, she managed, "My son, my Kwame. I searched for you in every face I saw." Kwame's tears came then, hot and fast, surprising him with their force. He pressed his forehead against her hands, clutching them as if they were the only solid things in a world suddenly made of water. "Forgive me," he choked out. "I didn't know. I was going to." He couldn't say the word slap. The ugliness of it was too much to bear. "It's over now," his mother whispered, her voice strengthening slightly. "Today it's over." Around them, the crowd stood in stunned silence. Grown men blinked back tears. Women held hands over their mouths. Security guards looked away, suddenly fascinated by the ground. Even the hawkers on the street had stopped their calling to witness this impossible reunion. Kofi, the driver, pushed through the crowd, his face wet with tears he wasn't trying to hide. "Sir, Mr. Kwame, is it really?" Kwame looked up, nodding wordlessly. He tried to stand, still holding his mother's hands, and realized how frail she was. Her arms were like twigs. Her body swayed dangerously. "Mama, when did you last eat?" I don't remember," she whispered. Amma stepped forward again, her presence somehow both commanding and humble. "She needs food, water, rest, and probably medical attention." Kwame's mind, which had been completely blank with shock, suddenly kicked into the gear he knew best: action, solutions, logistics. "Kofi, called Dr. Osei. Tell him to meet us at the private hospital immediately. Tell him it's my mother." The driver pulled out his phone, already dialing, his hand shaking. Kwame turned to Amma, really looking at her for the first time. The mud-stained dress, the bare feet, the sharp angles of hunger cutting through her face. The way she held herself with dignity despite having nothing. "How did you know?" he asked. "I told you. I read faces." "That's not an answer." Amma's lips curved into the smallest smile. "It's the only answer I have. I don't know how to explain it. I just see patterns, echoes, the way grief lives in someone's eyes, or how love leaves shadows. I see how faces fit together, like pieces of a story. That's impossible. So, is finding your mother 17 years after everyone said she was dead?" Amma countered gently. "Yet here we are." Kwame stared at her, then looked down at his mother, who was swaying more dangerously now. The heat, the shock, the years of hunger, all of it was crashing over her like waves. "Mama." Kwame caught her as her knees buckled completely. Kofi, the driver, was at his side instantly. Together, they supported the frail woman between them. "Someone get water," Kwame shouted. A security guard ran toward the mall entrance. The crowd parted automatically as Kwame and Kofi began moving toward the Bentley, his mother barely conscious between them. "Wait," Kwame said, turning back to Amma. "You're coming with us." Amma's eyes widened. "No, I couldn't." "Please," Kwame said, and this time there was no command in his voice, only desperate pleading. "You saved me from the worst mistake of my life. You gave me back what I thought was lost forever. Please, come with us." Amma hesitated, her bare feet shifting on the hot concrete. Then she nodded once and hurried after them. Her cloth bundle still clutched her chest. The Bentley's cool air conditioning hit them like a blessing as they climbed inside. Kwame laid his mother across the back seat, her head in his lap. Amma slid in on the other side, immediately taking the old woman's hand and beginning to rub it gently, encouraging circulation. "Mama, Amma, ye spit it. Stay with us. We're going to get help. I'm here." The old woman breathed, her eyes fluttering. "My son found me." Kofi drove faster than he ever had, weaving through Accra's chaotic traffic with the skill of someone who had spent decades navigating these streets. Behind them, several cars from the mall parking lot had begun to follow, unable to resist witnessing the conclusion of this impossible story. "What's your name, Mama?" Kwame asked softly, stroking her sparse hair. I need to remember. I need to say it again. Abina, she whispered. Abina Mensa. Abina, Kwame repeated, the name breaking something open in his chest. Mama Abina. In the front seat, Kofi was speaking rapidly into his phone. Yes, Dr. Osei. Severe malnutrition. Possible dehydration. 17 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. 17 years. We're 5 minutes away. As they flew down the highway, past the colorful TRO truss and the street vendors and the massive billboards advertising phones and beer and political candidates, Kwame found himself looking at Alma. Where do you live? He asked. Alma's gaze dropped to her lap. Under the Liberation Road Bridge. There's a place there. Some of us stay. Kwame's chest constricted again. This woman, this stranger who had stopped his hand, who had seen what no one else could see, who had given him back his mother, lived under a bridge. Not anymore, he said quietly. Alma looked up sharply. Sir, I don't want. When my mother leaves the hospital, Kwame interrupted. You're coming home with us. Both of you. I don't belong. You belong where people see you for who you are, Kwame said firmly. And I see you, Alma. I see someone who had nothing but gave me everything. Tears spilled down Alma's cheeks. She looked down at Mama Abina's hand in hers and nodded silently. Gray-haired man with kind eyes was waiting at the emergency entrance with a wheelchair and 2 nurses. Mr. Mensa, he said as the Bentley screeched to a halt. Let's get her inside immediately. They transferred Mama Abina to the wheelchair with infinite care. She was barely conscious now, her breathing shallow. Dr. Osei's face grew grave as he assessed her condition. How long has she been on the streets? We don't know, Kwame said, his voice tight. Years. Maybe the entire 17 years she's been missing. The doctor's jaw tightened. Kulme. Quickly. They rushed through the automatic doors into the cool, antiseptic interior. Kwame tried to follow the wheelchair, but a nurse gently stopped him. Sir, please. Let us work. We'll update you as soon as we can. She's my mother, Kwame said, his voice breaking. I just found her. You can't take her away again. Dr. Osei paused at the treatment room doors and looked back. Mr. Mensa, I promise you, I will do everything in my power to help her. But you must let us work. Go to the waiting room. We'll come for you soon. The doors swung shut with a soft whoosh, and Kwame was left standing in the hallway, his expensive kaftan wrinkled, his face wet with tears, feeling more powerless than he had ever felt in his life. Alma touched his arm gently. She's strong. She survived 17 years. She'll survive this too. Kwame looked down at her, this barefoot young woman in a mud-stained dress who spoke with the wisdom of someone much older. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for stopping me. If I had struck her, if I had. But you didn't, Alma said firmly. That's what matters now. In a private waiting room, Kofi brought them water and juice. Kwame tried to drink, but couldn't swallow past the lump in his throat. He paced instead, back and forth across the plush carpet, his mind racing with questions. How did this happen? He said aloud. How does someone go missing for 17 years in this city? We searched everywhere. We posted pictures. We offered rewards. Sometimes, Alma said softly from her chair, the world is very good at making people invisible. Kwame stopped pacing and looked at her. Is that what happened to you? Alma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I was supposed to be someone. I graduated top of my class at Ghana Technology University. Computer science. I had job offers from 3 major companies. My parents were so proud. She paused, her voice thickening. They were driving back from my graduation ceremony when a drunk driver hit them. Both of them died instantly. Kwame's heart clenched. I couldn't handle it, she continued, staring at her hands. I turned down all the job offers. What was the point? The only people who cared whether I succeeded were gone. I spiraled. Depression, they call it. But it felt more like drowning. Eventually, I ended up on the streets. And once you're there, it's like you stop existing to the world. She looked up, meeting Kwame's eyes. Your mother survived 17 years of being invisible. That takes strength most people can't imagine. Before Kwame could respond, Dr. Osei emerged from the treatment room, pulling off his gloves. Kwame's heart nearly stopped. How is she? Stable, the doctor said, and Kwame's knees almost gave out with relief. But Mr. Mensah, she shows signs of severe malnutrition and dehydration, as expected. But there's more. Kwame's stomach dropped. What more? Dr. Osei's expression grew troubled. When we removed her clothing to examine her, we found evidence of old trauma. Scars on her back, consistent with beatings, and marks on her wrists and ankles. Circular bruising patterns that suggest prolonged restraint. The room tilted. Kwame gripped the back of a chair to steady himself. Restraint? He repeated, his voice barely a whisper. You mean someone kept her tied? That would be my assessment, yes. Rage erupted in Kwame's chest, hot and violent. Who? Who would do this? I don't know, Dr. Osei said gently. But perhaps, when she's stronger, she can tell us. For now, she needs rest, nutrition, and care. We're starting her on 4 fluids and nutrients. You can see her briefly, but she needs to sleep. Kwame nodded mutely. Amma stood, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Let's go see her, she said softly. Let her know she's safe now. The hospital room was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of medical monitors. Mama Abina lay in the bed, looking impossibly small against the white sheets. 4 tubes ran into her arms, and an oxygen cannula rested under her nose. But her eyes were open, and when Kwame entered, they found him immediately. My son, she breathed. Kwame crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped into the chair beside her bed, taking her hand carefully, mindful of the 4 line. I'm here, Mama. I'm not going anywhere. Her fingers, though weak, squeezed his. I thought I would die without seeing you again. Never, Kwame said fiercely. You're never leaving me again. Never. Amma stood at the foot of the bed, quiet as always, but her presence somehow anchored the room. Mama Abina's eyes moved to her. You're the one who knew. Yes, Mama. How? Amma smiled gently. Your faces tell the same story. It was written in every line, every gesture. You belong to each other. Tears rolled down Mama Abina's face. God sent you. Maybe, Amma said. Or maybe I was just in the right place at the right time. Kwame looked between them. His mother, frail but alive, and this strange young woman who had somehow seen the impossible truth. His heart felt too full for his chest. Mama, he said carefully, the doctor said, he said you have scars. Old ones. Someone hurt you. Mama Abina's expression closed like a door slamming shut. Kwame, please. Not now. I need to know, he pressed gently. Who did this? Where have you been? Later, she whispered, her eyes pleading. When I'm stronger. Please, my son. Just let me look at you now. Let me remember your face. Kwame wanted to push, wanted to demand answers, but the exhaustion in her eyes stopped him. He nodded, swallowing his questions. Rest, Mama. I'll be right here. Dr. Osei had arranged for a comfortable room for Kwame and Amma to stay while Mama Abina recovered. As night fell over Accra, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kwame stood at the window, staring at nothing. Behind him, Amma sat on the small sofa, finally allowing herself to relax. A nurse had brought her sandals and a simple but clean dress. She looked almost like a different person. Someone kept her prisoner, Kwame said suddenly, his voice hard. For years, while I was building my company, making my millions, she was locked somewhere, probably not far from here, suffering. You didn't know, Amma said. I should have known. I should have looked harder. Kwame, Amma said firmly. Guilt will eat you alive. Don't let it. Your mother is alive. She's here. That's what matters now. Kwame turned from the window, his eyes red. Who could do something like that? Who would steal a mother from her son? Amma's expression was sad. People do terrible things. Sometimes for money. Sometimes for power. Sometimes for reasons that make sense only to them. A soft knock interrupted them. Dr. Osei entered, his face grave. Mr. Mensah, there's someone here who says he has information about your mother. He's very insistent. Kwame's heart raced. Who? He wouldn't give his full name. Just said to tell you his name is Samuel, and that he used to work for your family. Samuel. The name meant nothing to Kwame, but something about it sent a chill down his spine. Bring him in. A few minutes later, A thin man in his 50s entered, his clothes worn but clean, his eyes darting nervously around the room. When his gaze landed on Kwame, he stopped. "Mr. Mensah, you've grown into the image of your father. Who are you?" Kwame demanded. "Samuel Ajay. I was a housekeeper for your family when you were young. I left shortly after your mother disappeared. Why are you here?" Samuel's hands twisted together nervously. "Because I know what happened to her. And I've carried the weight of that silence for 17 years. The room went absolutely still. "Speak," Kwame commanded, his voice dangerous. Samuel took a breath. "Your uncle, Mensah." It was him. The name hit Kwame like a physical blow. "Uncle Ya? My father's brother." "Yes. After your father died, your mother was the executor of his estate. She discovered that your uncle had been embezzling from the company for years. She confronted him, told him she was going to report him to the authorities." Kwame felt the room spinning. Uncle Ya, who had helped him take over the company after his father's death. Uncle Ya, who had guided him through those early years. Uncle Ya, who still sat on his board of directors. So he what? Samuel's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "He had her taken. There's a compound in Kumasi, hidden in the bush. He kept her there, paid men to guard her, to make sure she could never escape, never tell anyone what she knew." "Why didn't he kill her?" Amma asked softly. Samuel looked at her. "He's a ruthless man, but not a murderer. At least, not directly. He thought keeping her prisoner was safer. She couldn't expose him, but he wouldn't have her blood on his hands." Kwame's entire body was shaking now, trembling with a rage so profound it felt like it might tear him apart. "Where is he now?" he asked, his voice barely controlled. "Still in Kumasi. Still living off the money he stole. He thinks your mother is dead. When she escaped a few months ago, he assumed she would die on the streets before anyone found her. How did she escape? The man he had watching her died. A heart attack. In the confusion, she slipped away. But by then, so many years had passed. She didn't know how to find you. She didn't even know if you were still alive." Kwame stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I'm going to destroy him." "Kwame," Amma started. "He stole 17 years from us." Kwame roared. "You let me believe she was dead. He let her suffer in that place while he sat in meetings with me, smiling, pretending to care." "I know," Amma said, standing to face him. "And he should pay. But not like this. Not with you going to Kumasi in rage. That's how you make mistakes. That's how you become like him." Kwame stared at her, chest heaving. "Your mother needs you here," Amma continued softly. "She needs you whole and present, not destroyed by vengeance. There's a right way to do this, with the law, with evidence, with justice." "Justice," Kwame spat. "Where was justice when she was locked in that place?" "It's coming now," Amma said firmly. "We'll make sure of it, but not by becoming monsters ourselves." Samuel cleared his throat. "I have proof. Documents. Photos. I kept them as insurance. In case your uncle ever turned on me, I can give them to the police." Kwame turned to him slowly. "Why now? Why didn't you come forward years ago?" Samuel's face crumpled. "Fear. Shame. He had power, money, connections. I was nobody. I thought he would kill me if I spoke. But seeing the news today, seeing that she was found, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I'm old now. I want to do one right thing before I die." Kwame studied him for a long moment, then nodded curtly. "Give the documents to the police. All of them. I want him arrested tonight." "Kwame," Amma said again, "think about your mother. When she wakes tomorrow, what do you want her to see? Her son, here, caring for her? Or the news that you're in Kumasi, fighting with your uncle?" The words cut through the red haze of his anger. Kwame closed his eyes, breathing deeply, trying to find center. "Fine," he said at last. "Samuel, go to the police. Give them everything. I'll call my lawyers. We'll do this properly." "But Amma," he opened his eyes, and they burned with determination. "He will pay. One way or another, he will pay." 3 days passed. Mama Abina grew stronger with each one. The 4 fluids and carefully managed nutrition bringing color back to her face. The doctors were amazed at her resilience. On the 4th day, she was well enough to sit up in bed and eat soft foods. Kwame brought her favorite dish from childhood, jollof rice with plantains, prepared by the hospital's private chef according to his specific instructions. As she ate small, careful bites, tears rolled down her cheeks. "I dreamed of this," she said. "In that place. I dreamed of eating jollof rice with my son." "Tell me," Kwame said gently, sitting beside her bed. "Tell me everything, Mama. I need to understand." Amma sat in the corner, quiet as always, but her presence had become as natural as breathing to both of them. Mama Abina set down her fork, her hands trembling slightly. Then she began. "It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were market days. I just bought fabric for your school uniform. You were outgrowing your old ones so fast." She smiled sadly. "I was walking home when a car pulled up beside me. Two men got out. Before I could scream, they grabbed me, threw a bag over my head, and pushed me into the car." Kwame's fists clenched, but he stayed silent. "They drove for hours. When they finally removed the bag, I was in a compound I didn't recognize. Your uncle was there, y'all. He told me I was going to stay there for a while. When I asked why, he said I knew too much." "About the embezzlement," Kwame said. Mama Abina looked surprised. "You know," Samuel came forward. "He told us everything." His mother's eyes widened. "Samuel? He's still alive?" "Yes, and he's giving evidence to the police." Mama Abina closed her eyes, fresh tears leaking out. "Thank God. I thought no one would ever know the truth." "What happened in that place, Mama?" Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "They locked me in a room. Small, no windows. They gave me food and water, but nothing else. No books, no radio, nothing. Just four walls and a locked door. Sometimes weeks would pass without seeing anyone but the guard who brought food. For 17 years, Kwame could barely speak. No, after 2 years, they moved me to another compound. This one was bigger, but more isolated. There were other buildings, but I never saw anyone else. They kept me alone. I tried to escape once." She pulled back her sleeve, showing the faint scars on her wrists. "They chained me after that. For 6 months, I was chained to the wall." Kwame made a sound like a wounded animal. Amma pressed her hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Eventually, they took off the chains, but by then, I had given up. Years passed. I stopped counting them. I prayed every day that you were alive and well. I told myself that as long as I lived, there was hope I might see you again." "How did you escape?" "The guard, the main one who watched me, he died. Heart attack, right there in front of me. In the chaos that followed, while others were dealing with his body, I just walked out. No one stopped me. I think they assumed I was too broken to try." "Where did you go?" "I didn't know. I had no money, no identification. I didn't even know what year it was. I walked to the main road and hitchhiked to Accra. I thought if I could just get to the city, I might find you. But everything had changed so much. I didn't know where to look, and I was ashamed. Ashamed." Kwame leaned forward. "Why? Look at me," she said, gesturing to herself. "I'm old now, broken. I didn't want you to see your mother like this. I thought maybe it would be better if you kept the memory of who I was." "Mama, no." Kwame took both her hands in his. "You are everything. You are my heart. Nothing could ever make me ashamed of you." She wept then, deep, racking sobs that seemed to release 17 years of held grief. Kwame held her carefully, as if she were made of glass. Amma came to the other side of the bed, placing a gentle hand on Mama Abina's shoulder. "You survived," Amma said softly. "That's what matters. You survived, and you found your way back." The arrest of Yaminsa made national headlines. Tech billionaire's uncle arrested for kidnapping and fraud, the newspaper screamed. The story spread like wildfire across social media. The missing mother, the barefoot prophet who recognized the truth, the billionaire who almost slapped his own mother. Detective Inspector Ajay, a no-nonsense woman who had built her reputation on solving impossible cases, led the investigation. With Samuel's documents and Mama Abina's testimony, the case against Yah was overwhelming. They found a compound in Kumasi, exactly where Samuel said it would be. The room where Mama Abina had been kept for so many years was photographed, documented, entered into evidence. The chains were still there, bolted to the wall. When Kwame saw the photos, he had to leave the room. Amma found him in the hospital garden, sitting on a bench, his head in his hands. I keep thinking about her in that room, he said without looking up. Alone. For years. While I was making money, buying cars, building my empire. She was in that room. Amma sat beside him. You didn't know. I should have looked harder. Kwame, listen to me. Amma turned his face toward her gently. Your uncle had resources, connections, money. He hid her deliberately, carefully. You were young when it happened, barely 21. You did everything you could. It wasn't enough. It was enough to build a life worth coming back to. Your mother said it herself. She held on because she believed you were out there, thriving. If you had been broken, if you had given up your life to endless searching, what would she have had to come back to? Kwame stared at her. This young woman who had lived under a bridge, yet somehow possessed the wisdom of an elder. How did you become so wise? He asked softly. Suffering teaches you things. It strips away everything false until only truth remains. I don't want you to suffer anymore, Kwame said suddenly. Neither of you. I want to give you both everything you missed. We don't need everything, Amma said. We just need to belong somewhere. Then belong with me, Kwame said. Both of you. Let me build you a life worth having. Hashtag part 8. The trial. Mensa's trial was a spectacle. The courtroom was packed every day, with people standing in the aisles, pressing against the walls. News cameras lined the steps outside. The prosecution presented document after document, evidence of embezzlement stretching back over 2 decades, totaling more than 50 million cedis. But it was Mama Abina's testimony that broke the nation's heart. Wearing a beautiful Kent dress that Kwame had commissioned specially for her, her hair styled elegantly, she took the stand with quiet dignity. She described the kidnapping, the years of isolation, the chains, the darkness. She spoke without anger, simply stating facts, but her words painted a picture so devastating that several jurors wept openly. When it was Ya's lawyer's turn to cross-examine, he stood, adjusted his robes, and said, Mrs. Mensa, you claim you were held prisoner for 17 years, yet you escaped quite easily when the opportunity arose. Isn't it possible you were there voluntarily? The courtroom erupted in outrage. The judge had to bang his gavel repeatedly to restore order. Mama Abina simply looked at the lawyer with such profound sadness that he actually took a step back. Young man, she said softly, I pray you never know what it is to be broken so completely that escape seems impossible even when the door is open. I pray your mother never experiences what I experienced. And I pray that one day you will understand that survival is not the same as consent. The lawyer sat down, his face red. Samuel testified next, producing records, photographs, and detailed accounts of the compound's operations. He described how Ya had orchestrated everything, how he had paid guards, how he had moved money through shell companies to fund the operation. Then came the defense's turn. Ya's lawyers argued that he had been protecting the family, that Mama Abina had been mentally unstable after her husband's death, that the imprisonment was actually protective custody. They painted Samuel as a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. But the evidence was too overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Mensa was sentenced to 35 years in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 15. The courtroom erupted in applause. Mama Abina wept quietly in Kwame's arms. Amma stood beside them, her hand on Mama Abina's shoulder, tears streaming down her own face. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Kwame stood on the steps, his mother on one side, Amma on the other. Mr. Mensa, how do you feel about the verdict? Justice has been served, Kwame said simply. My mother can finally begin to heal. And what about the young woman who identified your mother? There are rumors. Her name is Amma, Kwame interrupted. And without her, none of this would have been possible. She saw what no one else could see. She saved my mother's life, and she saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. He turned to look at Amma, and something in his eyes made the reporters fall silent. She gave me back my family, Kwame said softly. And now, she's part of that family. Hashtag part 9, building a new life. The transformation began the very next day. Kwame had bought a beautiful home in East Legon, one of Accra's most prestigious neighborhoods. It was a sprawling compound with gardens, fountains, and enough rooms for everyone to have their own space. But first, he took both women shopping. The boutique owner nearly fainted when Kwame walked in with instructions to outfit both women completely. Everything, he said. Traditional wear, modern clothes, shoes, accessories. Everything of the finest quality. For Mama Abina, they selected elegant Kent and Ankara fabrics in rich colors, deep blues, vibrant purples, gold accents. The seamstress took her measurements with reverent care, already planning designs worthy of a queen. Amma stood awkwardly among the racks of expensive clothing, clearly uncomfortable. I don't need all this, she protested. Yes, you do, Kwame said firmly. Look at me, Amma. She met his eyes. You deserve beauty in your life. You deserve to look in the mirror and see someone valued, someone precious. Let me give you this. Tears welled in Amma's eyes, but she nodded. They selected dresses for her, both traditional and modern. Frujink Ankara gons in brilliant patterns. Elegant dresses for formal occasions. Comfortable clothes for daily wear. And shoes. So many shoes, because Amma admitted she had dreamed of owning proper shoes again. Next came the salon. It was the most exclusive in Accra, where Ghana's wealthy elite came to be pampered. When Kwame arrived with his mother and Amma, the staff dropped everything. They washed Mama Abina's hair with expensive products, treating it with oils and conditioners until it shone. They styled it elegantly, bringing out the silver in a way that made her look distinguished rather than aged. They manicured her nails, which had been broken and cracked for so long she had forgotten they could be beautiful. When Mama Abina saw herself in the mirror, she gasped. The woman staring back at her looked regal, dignified, powerful. She looked like someone who had survived and emerged victorious. Is that really me? She whispered. That's who you always were, Kwame said, standing behind her. We just had to uncover it again. Amma's transformation was equally stunning. The stylists worked magic on her hair, cutting away the damaged parts and styling what remained into a beautiful natural afro. They shaped her eyebrows, applied subtle makeup that highlighted her striking eyes, and painted her nails a soft pink. When she emerged, Kwame actually stopped breathing for a moment. Amma had always been beautiful, but hunger and hardship had hidden it. Now, healthy and cared for, she was radiant. You look like a queen, Mama Abina said, reaching for Amma's hand. Amma Bulushid. I look like someone I don't recognize. You look like yourself, Kwame said quietly. Finally, weeks passed. The new house became a home. Mama Abina gained weight, her cheeks filling out, her arms growing stronger. She spent her days in the garden, coaxing flowers to bloom, singing old hymns that Kwame remembered from childhood. Amma, meanwhile, was struggling with her new reality. Kwame had offered her a position at Mensatech Industries, but she had hesitated. I haven't worked in years, she protested. I'm not ready. Then get ready, Kwame said. Take your time. Use the home office. Refresh your skills. When you're ready, you'll have a place waiting. So Amma spent her days relearning programming languages, catching up on technological advances she had missed during her years on the streets. She was amazed at how quickly it came back, how her mind, once so sharp, seemed to be healing along with her body. One evening, Kwame found her on the veranda, laptop open, completely absorbed in code. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, and Amma was silhouetted against it, her afro a dark halo around her head. He stood watching her for a long moment, and something shifted in his chest. A feeling he couldn't quite name, but recognized nonetheless. You're brilliant, he said softly. Amma looked up, startled. I didn't hear you. You're completely absorbed. It's beautiful to watch. She closed the laptop, suddenly self-conscious. I'm just playing around. That's not playing around. I looked at your screen. That's advanced machine learning code. Amma Shuruk. I used to be good at this. Before life knocked you down. It's beautiful out here, she said, looking at the lights. When did you? She stopped as she saw the setup. The lights, the flowers, the orchestra. And there, in the center of the garden, stood Mama Abina, wearing her finest Kent, tears already streaming down her face. Kwame. Amma's voice trembled. What is this? Kwame took her hand, and led her to the center of the garden. Then, as the orchestra shifted to a soft, romantic melody, he dropped to one knee. Ama's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Ama," Kwame began, his voice thick with emotion. "A year ago, I thought I had everything. Money, power, success. But I had nothing that mattered. Then you came into my life, and everything changed. You gave me back my mother. You taught me to see with new eyes. You showed me what real strength looks like." He pulled out a ring, a stunning diamond set in gold, with intricate patterns etched into the band. "You are my light in the darkness, my hope when everything seems lost, my reminder that miracles are real. Ama, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how precious you are?" Ama was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "Yes," she managed to say. "Yes, yes, yes." Kwame slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. The orchestra swelled into a joyful melody. Mama Abina rushed forward, embracing them both, laughing and crying at the same time. "My children," she said, holding them close. "God has given me back everything I lost, and more. So much more." That night, they celebrated with a feast under the stars. Close friends came. People from Kwame's company, from Mama Abina's church. She had joined one nearby and quickly became beloved by the congregation. And even Samuel, who had become a sort of adopted uncle to them all. Detective Inspector Ajay came too, off duty, smiling as she watched this family that had been shattered and then miraculously rebuilt. "This is why I do this job," she told Kwame. "For moments like this, when justice leads to joy." The wedding was held 6 months later, and it was the event of the year in Accra. Kwame had wanted to make it private, intimate, but Ama had surprised him. "No," she said. "Our story gave hope to so many people. People who thought they had lost everything. People who believed miracles didn't happen anymore. Let them see that happy endings are real. Let them celebrate with us." So Kwame rented the largest event venue in Accra and invited everyone. Not just Ghana's elite, but people from the streets too. Former homeless individuals, street vendors, people who rarely got invited to anything, found themselves receiving elegant invitations to the wedding of the year. The venue was transformed into a paradise. Kent cloth in every color imaginable draped from the ceiling. Flowers from across West Africa filled every corner. Roses, orchids, bird of paradise, jasmine. Traditional drummers stood ready, along with a full orchestra and a gospel choir. On the day of the wedding, Ama stood in the bridal suite, staring at herself in the mirror. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece, a fusion of traditional and modern, with intricate Kent patterns worked into pure white silk. Gold thread traced elaborate designs across the bodice. Her headpiece was traditional, wrapped beautifully, with a delicate veil that floated around her like mist. Mama Abina, resplendent in royal purple Kent, stood behind her, tears already flowing. "My daughter," she whispered, adjusting Ama's veil. "You look like an angel." "I can't believe this is real," Ama said softly. "Sometimes I wake up afraid it's all a dream, that I'm still under that bridge." Mama Abina turned Ama to face her, taking both her hands. "Listen to me. You're not dreaming. This is your life now. You earned it. Not by suffering, but by being exactly who you are. By having the courage to speak truth when everyone else was silent. By seeing what others couldn't see. This is real, my daughter, and you deserve every bit of it." Ama hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mama, for everything." Meanwhile, in another room, Kwame was having his own moment. Dressed in traditional Kent, rich gold and green patterns that marked him as royalty, he looked every inch the prince he had become. Samuel stood with him, helping adjust his headpiece. "Your father would be proud," Samuel said quietly. "Not of your wealth, but of the man you become. The way you fought for justice for your mother. The way you love Ama." Kwame's eyes glistened. "I wish he could see this." "He can," Samuel said firmly. "And your mother is here to see it. That's the miracle." The ceremony was breathtaking. As the orchestra played and the choir sang, Ama walked down the aisle on Mama Abina's arm, the mother who had become hers. The crowd gasped at her beauty, but Kwame only saw her eyes, bright with unshed tears, locked on his. When she reached him, he whispered, "You're stunning. You're not bad yourself." She whispered back, and they both laughed through their tears. The pastor, a jovial man who had been with Mama Abina's church, beamed at them. "We are here today to witness a miracle," he began. "Not just the union of two people, but the restoration of what was lost, the healing of what was broken, the triumph of hope over despair." He spoke of how they had found each other in the midst of darkness, how Amma's gift had reconnected a family, how love had bloomed in the most unexpected place. When it came time for vows, Kwame went first. "Amma, the day I met you, I was about to commit the worst sin of my life. You stopped my hand, but you did more than that. You stopped my heart from closing forever. You gave me back my mother, but you also gave me yourself. You showed me that wealth means nothing without love, that power means nothing without compassion, that success means nothing without family. I vow to love you, cherish you, protect you, and spend every day earning the gift of your heart." There wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Amma took a shaky breath before speaking. "Kwame, a year ago, I had given up on life. I thought my story ended under that bridge. Then God put me in your path, not to save you, but to save myself. You gave me a reason to live again. You and Mama Abina became my family when I thought I would never have one. You saw me when I was invisible, valued me when I had nothing to offer, loved me when I couldn't love myself. I vow to be your partner, your friend, your love for all the days of my life." When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, the entire venue erupted. Drums began to thunder. The choir sang with such joy that the walls seemed to shake. Kwame pulled Amma into his arms and kissed her as if she were his entire world, because she was. The reception was legendary. Traditional dancers performed, their movements telling stories of love and triumph. The food was endless: jollof rice, fufu with light soup, grilled tilapia, kelaweel, wache, red, and more desserts than anyone could count. But the most moving moment came when Mama Abina stood to give her speech. The room fell silent. "I lost 17 years, she began, her voice clear and strong. 17 years locked away from light, from love, from life. There were days I wanted to die. Days I prayed for death to end my suffering." She paused, looking at Kwame and Amma with such love that people wept just seeing it. "But I held on. I held on because I believed. I had to believe that somewhere my son was alive. That somehow, someday, we would find each other again. And when we did, when this brave young woman saw what no one else could see and stopped my son from striking me, I knew that God had not forgotten me." She raised her glass. "Today, I stand here whole. Not because the years were given back, they're gone forever, but because I have found something more precious than time. I have found family. Not just my son, but my daughter. Amma, you're the daughter I never had but always prayed for." Amma was sobbing openly now. "And I have found purpose," Mama Abina continued. "My suffering was not meaningless. It led to this moment, to this union, to this joy. So I say to everyone here who has lost something, who has suffered, who has wondered if their pain has purpose, hold on. Hold on, because you never know what miracle is waiting around the corner." She raised her glass higher. "To Kwame and Amma, to love that sees beyond appearances, to hope that refuses to die, to family, found, restored, and forever. To family," the crowd roared, raising their glasses. As the night wore on, Kwame and Amma danced surrounded by people who loved them. At one point, Kwame whispered in her ear, "Are you happy?" Amma pulled back to look at him, her eyes shining. "I didn't know it was possible to be this happy." "Get used to it," Kwame said, pulling her close again. "We have a lifetime of this ahead of us." The morning sun filtered through white curtains, casting soft light across the nursery. Amma sat in the rocking chair, cradling a small bundle wrapped in soft yellow blankets. The baby, a boy they had named Kofi, after Kwame's father, slept peacefully in her arms, his tiny fist curled against his mouth. The door opened quietly, and Mama Abina slipped in. She had aged well in the past 2 years, her face fuller, her movements stronger, her eyes bright with contentment. "Oh, there's my grandson," she whispered, coming to stand beside Amma. "Perfect," Amma whispered back. Like his father, and like his mother, Mama Abina added, stroking the baby's soft hair. At that moment, Kwame appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas, his hair tousled from sleep. The sight of his wife, his mother, and his son all together made his chest tighten with emotion. "Good morning, my family," he said softly, coming to join them. "Good morning, Daddy," Amma teased, and Kwame laughed quietly. As they stood together, bathed in morning light, Kwame thought back to that day outside the mall. The day he had almost committed an unforgivable act. The day a barefoot young woman had spoken impossible truth. The day everything changed. "What are you thinking?" Amma asked, reading his expression. "I'm thinking about miracles," Kwame said. "How close I came to missing all of this." Mama Abina reached up and touched his cheek. "But you didn't miss it, my son. We found each other, and we built this." She gestured around the room, but she meant so much more. The house, the family, the love, the life they had created together. "I start my new position next month," Amma said. She had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer at Minsatech, the youngest person ever to hold the role. Her innovations had already begun transforming the company. "And I start my new position too," Mama Abina added with a smile. She had become a counselor at a shelter for missing persons' families, using her story to bring hope to others. Kwame looked at these two extraordinary women, one who had survived unspeakable trauma, one who had risen from the streets, and felt overwhelming gratitude. "You know what the best part is?" he said. "What?" they both asked. "This is just the beginning. We have so many years ahead of us, so many memories to make." Baby Kofi stirred, opening his eyes, bright and alert, taking in the faces of his family. He made a small sound, and all three adults laughed softly. "He's hungry," Amma said, standing carefully. "Come on, little one. Let's get you fed." As Amma carried the baby toward the door, Mama Abina took Kwame's hand. "Are you happy, my son?" Kwame looked at her. This woman who had endured darkness so deep it should have destroyed her, yet had emerged with her spirit intact, her love undiminished, her hope unshaken. "Mama, I didn't know happiness like this existed." "Neither did I," she admitted. "But God is faithful. Even when we can't see the path, even when all hope seems lost, He is working." They walked together down the hallway toward the kitchen, where Amma was preparing to feed Kofi, where breakfast smells were already drifting from the kitchen, where another beautiful day was beginning. Behind them, on the nursery wall, hung a framed photograph from that day at the mall. Someone in the crowd had captured it. The moment Amma had raised her hand, the moment Kwame had frozen, the moment Mama Abina had stood trembling on the stairs. It was the moment everything changed. Beneath it, in elegant script, were the words, "Don't slap her. She's your missing mother." A reminder, a warning, a testament to the power of sight, really seeing another human being, and a celebration of the miracle that followed when one brave soul chose to speak truth, even when it seemed impossible.